What's up, everybody? My name is Brandon McCall. I'm also known as BMC, and this is Nice Minds. I'm with a very special guest, my homie Darrian Kaye. How you doing?
Hey, how's it going, Brandon? What's up?
So, how I know you? You actually just hit me up randomly on Facebook one day. I think that's how we got connected. I, I think you were like looking for people in like the Twin Cities area to connect with, and that's how we connected.
We went to college together, I think. Like, I
That's
don't know
right.
if we went the same year or not, but we both at some point went to the Institute of Production Recording. I was there for about a year, I think from 2012 to 2013. But yeah, I started reaching out 2021 to people on social media that I knew in all sorts of different major cities and just like kind of reestablishing those connections.
It's been dope to be connected so far. I mean, you've definitely brought me work as a recording engineer with one of your artists. But why don't you go into a little background about yourself? How did you get started with music?
I actually started with music from a very young age. So my mom, she was a single waitress. She worked like between 40 and 60 hours a week. My dad was in prison while I was growing up, and my mom later did marry in life when I was about, I think I was like 8, 9 years old. I don't really remember, 6, 7. But during my formative years, my mom would leave me with my grandma a lot. Um, you know, and she was married to John Lambert, who is a booking agent and a musician in the area, very well known over here in Wisconsin, where I'm from. I'm from Appleton, Wisconsin, and they lived in a small trailer home actually in Forest Junction, Wisconsin, and they had a recording studio in their trailer home. And my mom would leave me with them, and my grandma really helped out a lot, helped raise me when I was younger, and I just naturally started picking up those instruments and playing the guitar and playing the keyboard. And I would watch my grandpa as he was playing and kind of mimic what he was doing, from a very young age. I got my first guitar at the age of 5, and I started songwriting and recording with a little cassette tape recorder when I was about 8, 9. My first performance was age 11. So I performed shows from age 11 on to about, I would say 20 is when I stopped performing.
You were like 5, you said when you got started?
Yeah, it would, and see the guitar. I always loved the guitar. That was what I wanted to get into the most. And as I was younger, it would hurt my fingers a lot. There was a lot deterring me from getting into it, and I would kind of pick it up for a while and then put it back down, pick it up and put it back down, and then as I got older, I actually really stuck to it. Started taking lessons, and my grandpa finally started teaching me actually how to play.
That's what's up. Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned that you went to IPR for a little while. But when did you said that you just started Inner City Sound last year, did you say?
I took a step back from music for a long time. So I moved away from Minneapolis. I left college. I would say probably I left like 2013, I think is when I stopped IPR, but I ended up leaving state and moving down to Florida like 2014, 2015. And my life just took like a much different path, like a very, school of hard knocks path. And I couldn't do what I wanted to do in life. There's like a lot holding me back and like a lot of obstacles and a lot of like losses that I had to take. And it really changed who I was. And for a long time, I like lost my voice, like as a musician and as a person, trying to figure out who am I again. And finally, like after the tragedy we all experienced in 2020 with like the pandemic and whatnot, I finally got this clarity of mind of, like every day really matters. You need to do what you love to do now, because you might not have next month or next year. So my perspective kind of changed. And then I kind of like formed Inner City Sound with this sense of urgency, that I didn't have before. It's always been inside of me. Everybody's always known, I was eventually going to create a record label and be a producer, and everybody kind of predicted this path. And I kind of knew it in my heart, but it was a matter of when are you actually going to sit down and do it.
When we have conversations, I see a lot of similarities in you as like myself when I first started Nice Guy Entertainment because I ran it as a record label and
Mm-hmm.
kind of with the same exact vision and goals in mind as far as like helping artists kind of get their start and help launch artist careers. And I
Right.
right away after starting at IPR, Nice Guy Entertainment kind of took shape. And um I think at one point we were like 10 artists deep at one point. and
Right.
I was, like, doing a bunch of different albums. I was, like, wearing all these hats, like, I was recording engineer, producer,
Yeah.
I was booking shows, and I actually, like, really got my name, booking shows,
Right.
and I think that's kinda how we connected too, 'cause I really stopped, booking shows. I think the last one I booked was, like, July 2019. Because I found it, even though, like, I love every single person that was ever a part of NGE, um, I found it really hard to continue, during the pandemic and, after my mom got sick and I was helping take care of my mom, and my priorities just kinda shifted, and it got to be a lot to juggle, especially wearing
Yep.
all the hats that my artists and people that I was working with were used to me wearing, like, I was it was hard to kinda spread myself as thin as I was before,
Yeah.
so I really commend and, uh, I love it when people tell me that they're wanting to start a label, and especially for genuine reasons like yourself.
I was very anti-record label for like a very long time. I didn't really believe in like the concept and the structure of them, like as we know it. I really always believed that a new path needed to be taken, that strayed far away from the traditional concept of like the record label. And like you said, we all got to learn like when are we spreading ourselves too thin and when are we doing too much? You know what I mean? You kind of touched before on like we have a mutual goal of helping artists start their careers, fostering them and mentoring them so that they can actually have healthy, prolonged, sustainable careers. And I just kind of like found that I have to step back a little bit as a person and let my artists take control, and do their own thing. And I'm trying to allow more production to be done on the artist's behalf and allowing them to go with their own producers and their own people that they're more comfortable with to like kind of save on costs, but then also save on like, my own energy and my own sanity. So what I found though is I when I originally started ICS, I was just trying to book shows, and I ended up learning so much about my artists and their different personalities, and what they needed, and so much more needed to be done, and so many more shoes needed to be filled, and I ended up just kind of naturally forming a label so that I didn't have to build individual brands, from the ground up. Now ICS is kind of functioning as a umbrella brand.
Yeah, I love that, and that's something that I really realized, when I sat and, like, thought about what I do with artists. I mean, I think it's important that we revisit, like, our why, like, why are we doing the things that we're doing? I think it's good to, like, assess that, and I really thought about it, and it comes back to, like, everything that you're saying, like, um, giving people opportunities that I wish that I would have had when I was younger, and when I was first starting, and I like oftentimes, like, I catch myself thinking, like, "Damn, I wish I had a me in my life." Like, I wish I had, somebody that, kinda I mean, I won't, like, take away from any of the mentors that I've had over the years. I mean, because I've had some, some decent mentors, but, um, I just think about the different things that I do and have done for artists, and I'm just like, "Man."
I think when we were back in IPR, I don't know where you were at because we didn't really talk when we were both in college. So I don't know what your career was like and what your stance was like. But when I first went to IPR, I didn't know what my goal looked like. I didn't understand like what I was going to school for. Like, what am I trying to do? There was no model to look at and be like, this is what I'm trying to do, other than rhyme sayers. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Which we don't really, we're not really even thinking about right now, but like back in the day to have worked with rhyme sayers would have been like the biggest like miracle come true. And I think that was like the only thing in our mind and like Minnesota music culture at that time that we could like become. And I don't think we realized that we weren't going to school to learn how to work for somebody else. We were going to school to learn how to work for ourselves and how to, like much like you do freelance work and find your own work and how to like employ yourself. And we ultimately had to become our own employers because our job didn't exist, and they were
Yep.
telling us not to do it. Everybody was saying this is an unstable career. The music industry is falling apart. Like there's no way to collect any money on what you do. There's no money in it. And we ultimately had to like make the money and find the path. And we had to make the label to hire ourselves, you know?
You nailed it. You have to be really scrappy in order to be in this business. You
Yeah.
have to really you have to really hustle and you have to really figure out you know, find the different niches that other people aren't finding, find the business that other people aren't, you know, able to do or,
Hmm.
just be that separate yourself from the pack and be that different to where, you're able to do the things that other people can't do. That I mean, I think that that's what it really takes to be successful in this industry, you know?
You know, I agree with you. My mentor, John Lambert, that I was talking about before, my grandpa who helped to raise me, he told me, don't ever forget that, you know, while you may love playing guitar and writing songs and singing, he said there's going to be other aspects of your career that you have to fill in order to like actually be able to make enough money to survive and to eat and to, you know, eventually leave your job. He was like, you know, I don't just perform shows and play the guitar. I make videos, I do photography, I do promotion, I do advertising, you know, I do social media work, I do networking. I do all of these different things. I create digital products, I sell beats, I do guitar lessons, I give keyboard lessons, I give Ableton lessons. And every day of the week, you know, he's working on something else, always working on a different project, you know. Just really always encouraging me to be fluent in like not only different DAWs but also like in different medias, you know, video
Yep.
versus music versus, you know, whatever. And so that's something I'm trying to like get more familiar with is video and editing and all that, which is a whole nother realm to get into.
Yep.
But with the emphasis just being that it's very crucial that you are not stubborn in this industry to the you have to be stubborn, but you have to not be so stubborn that you're closed minded. You have to keep your mind open to the opportunities that are around you because there's money all around you. You just have to be willing to do the work.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly it. I mean, it's crazy because I started as a rapper and a producer, as everybody who follows this podcast has heard me said a million times. But I now find myself getting because I also do podcast stuff, so have gotten podcast work. But then one of my ex girlfriends just hit me up the other day last week, and as a Valentine's Day, present for her husband, she wants to record him doing voiceover work and wants me to make
Hmm.
a demo reel for his voiceover talent.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I'd I think even 10 years ago, I wouldn't even thought to do that. I wouldn't even
Right.
I don't that kind of gig wouldn't have even f- fell into my lap, So
Yep.
it's really you really have to keep your mind open and not be opposed to doing different things that you've never done before, and to try different things and to ultimately yeah, there gets to a point where you have to say no to a lot of stuff, but be willing to say yes, if it's something that's
Yep.
interesting to you and in your wheelhouse and something that that you can accomplish and something that you can add to your resume that wasn't there before, I mean,
Right.
so yeah, I definitely think it's important to stay versatile in this industry for sure.
Yeah, versatility is definitely key. Like you said, it's important to know what's like in your wheelhouse and what isn't too, because sometimes you might take on something that's way too big. You know what I mean? But something I thought that was interesting, kind of just speaking of, you know, versatility, is last time when I went to actually go see you, we were recording Nameless TJK, that song "In My Zone."
Yep.
And that same day we went to the Mall of America earlier in the day. It was either that day or the day after, and we walked past Community Commons, which is a store I believe on the third floor of the Mall of America. So we were just in the Mall of America hanging out, and we walked past, and we were wearing inner city sound merchandise, and all of us had like some sort of piece of merch on, you know. And somebody from that store, it caught their eye, and they pulled us in, and they were like, "Hey, like you're a brand, you're a record label, like whatever, you know, we want to have a music video to promote like our clothing brand and whatnot." So we got to talking to this guy about, music videos and recording music. And then somebody said, "Hey, like we really like your clothing. Like, why don't you try to get it into the Mall of America, into the store or whatever, into community commons?" So we started actually networking with some of the community commons entrepreneurs and Mall of America administrative staff, and now they actually really are stoked about the Inner City Sound brand. And they said, "Hey, like, what about not just selling clothes, but selling albums and visual art, and kind of using like all sorts of different assets of your network to promote your brand within a brick and mortar store," which I had never thought about doing. So we produced our first collection of clothing, and it keeps selling out still to this day. Like every time we make a batch, it sells out so quickly we can't print more, and it's been very expensive because we went with like a high quality screen printer, and we're trying to like find a way to rebalance and recalibrate those costs. But yeah, we keep getting kind of pushed further and further in the clothing industry, and now we're looking at not just being a brand that produces merch as part of a label, but a brand that also makes like high end luxury streetwear. So now we're learning about streetwear and textiles and fabrics and wholesale and all this different stuff we never thought that we would be doing. And we're getting introduced to a lot of different malls across America and whatnot to try to get our brand into different stores.
Speaking of that, and I will cut this out if you don't wanna talk about it, but, you told me this crazy story the other day that I think would be super interesting to tell on this, like, about, like,
Hmm.
somebody that ripped you off,
Yeah,
so s
yeah.
do you care to talk about that? Can you share that?
I'll speak on it like in a limited capacity. Yeah, so we went to go put our stuff in a store in downtown St. Paul, in the Skyway at 444 Cedar Avenue, I think it was. And I had a bad feeling about this guy and whatnot that we were working with. And everybody said, "No, Darrian, it's your anxiety. Don't worry about it. There's no reason. He's only done good business, whatever." And then I got a call from Minnesota State Patrol, and they said, "Do you know why your merchandise is all over the highway on 29 eastbound over here?" And I was like, no, but I have a pretty good feeling I do. And so I got to making phone calls, and right away the guy got super aggressive with me, super mean, making threats, death threats, and everything. And I think the crazy thing is, I forget how loyal my family is. Like the people that love me are loyal to me. I don't have like a lot of people, but I do like because the people that I have, it's like being rich versus being wealthy. When it comes to relationships, I'm wealthy, I'm not rich. Like my relationships are strong, and I've been fostering them for a decade or more. And the people who mess with me really mess with me. And so it's not good to step on my toes, because ultimately I'll recover everything. And so I just made 3 phone calls, and within 3 phone calls, everything was recovered. So it was in 3 different locations: Minnesota State Patrol, somewhere like some sort of site. I don't know what it was. I don't know what the site was. I just had the address. I had a guy go there. So I don't know, somewhere where they stash stuff away. So I had to send somebody to go to State Patrol and get my stuff. So we got the stuff from there. Then I had to send somebody to the Mall of America, because he's got my stuff in the Mall of America now, presenting it on the rack as his own brand, not diversifying it from, being a totally different brand than his, just kind of taking credit. I told him you can put 2 pieces there, and he had a whole lot more than that. So my friends went and took the stuff straight off the shelves. And at first, the Mall of America didn't like that. Then they went to his store and they found him, and then they took back all the stuff from there. Now it's being mailed back to me, priority mail, right now. So everything's been recovered in less than 1 week. We're missing one beanie. That's it. We lost $15 tops.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's unreal. Like, when you told me that story, I was just like, "Holy shit, I can't believe you guys
Yeah.
recovered everything." I mean, that's amazing.
ICS recovery team is no joke.
Yeah, I bet.
People
Damn.
gets it popping out that you have never seen before.
Yeah. Damn. That is crazy.
Yeah. And we're not looking to get into any problems with anybody. We're very reserved about it. You know what I mean? Very reserved. And the Mall of America, I sent my people in there and I said, "Okay, go put me on the phone or whatever with them." So they went and found somebody. They're like, "There's no manager." I was like, "I don't care. I need to talk to somebody." So I talked to somebody, and she was like, well, I can't give you permission to take the stuff out of the store, but I also am not going to tell you not to. And I said, well, then they're going to take it. I was like, I don't know what to tell you. And I called later and I left a voicemail for the top administrative person. I said, hey, I just want you to know, like, this is the truth about what happened. Like, I really apologize, like, in all sincerity, no disrespect to your store or your space. I didn't mean to be so assertive, but a situation had unfolded I had to like take control of, unfortunately. And she responded to my voicemail and was like, thank you for making us aware of this, aware of this individual and this situation. We had no idea, this was happening. And then they actually started to shoot off some ideas for the brand too. We got carried away talking about that, some exciting things for the future. But ultimately, there was no loss and it was a fun adventure, and it restored faith in my team. It made me, excited. It made me realize what we can do. Like, there really are people who look get on the ground and make sure that like we get out there by any means possible and protect our brand.
That's incredible. I mean, speaking of which, where do you see ICS going in 5 years? Like, what is your ultimate goal for ICS by like 2027?
Just kind of looking at, before we get into the next, 5 years, the next 3 years or so, the next 2 to 3 years, we want to get to a point where we have, between 4 and 10 artists on a roster that are playing at least 1 to 2 shows a week, with consistency. We want to get into the market where we're making at least between, 250 to 1,000 a show, and have probably like, 6 or 7 main artists. And that's kind of our goal, is to just generate like a consistent income. We want to stay with our artists over the course of a few years to help them build and grow and increase, their payment per show, and overall make us more profitable together, so that when ICS succeeds, we all succeed, and vice versa. Nobody's paying in to be a part of it. We're all working together towards a common goal, and to increase, our wealth as a community, to kind of like redirect opportunities from these huge labels and corporations back to us. And I think once we get to a point where we're able to stabilize ourselves in that way by following our passion and our music, we can kind of look at, okay, now what are we capable of? Now where do we go? Now what is our direction? Ultimately, we want to be, a sustainable record label. We also want to have mentorship programs and safe spaces in the community. We have a lot of charitable goals in mind and whatnot too. Inner City Sound really believes in fighting gentrification inside urban areas. One thing we want to get into is founding a charity to help BIPOC and LGBT communities actually buy homes in the cities and neighborhoods that they live in, so that we're not paying rent to these like corrupt landlords and whatnot. So we want to get ourselves, on our feet, and to a point where we can leave our full-time jobs and do what we love, and then also look at how can we give back to the community. We look at, what are we going to look at nationwide too? We're called Inner City Sound. We're not city specific. We have very strong roots in the Midwest and in the Minneapolis area, but we're also looking at Florida and California, and Illinois. So that's something we would like to see. We'd like to see our clothing brand grow, and we'd also like to see stability and a sustainable roster.
That's amazing goals. And I mean, it sounds really realistic too. It's not like, some people like myself are like, I want a Grammy in 3 years. I mean,
Yeah.
that's my goal, but it sounds
Yeah,
like
I know.
you're taking
Yeah.
it like a little bit more realistic and practical,
Yeah.
which I really like. And I love the helping people aspect of it and the charitable aspect of it. I love all that. And I really appreciate what you represent and what you believe in.
And you've been a huge help to me too, Brandon. I really appreciate it. The engineering work that you did was really, really good, on In My Zone. I look forward to working with you in the future. Always glad that we can network and help each other out. And, I want to say thanks for inviting me on the podcast.
Fuck yeah. Do you have any last words that you would like to leave the people with?
Yeah, I guess I just want to say, you know, keep going no matter how hard it gets. This industry is very hard, and there will be a lot of times as an entrepreneur that you think you're broken and you think that everything is so messed up and so destroyed that there's just no way to recover. And if you are meant to be in this industry, you will rebuild and you will succeed and you will keep going. You get more and more used to taking the punches and taking the hits, and it affects you emotionally less and less. And you start thinking with that logic part of your mind. So, tenacity is very important, and just sticking with your goals, knowing yourself, and knowing no matter how hard it gets and how many haters you got, that you got to keep doing what you love. Don't ever let anybody make you question what you're doing. If you stop and question yourself, that's when everything starts to fall apart. So you know who you are, you keep going with what you are, and don't look at this outside, static and whatnot. So just keep going no matter how hard it gets. Always be the best at what you do. Be prepared to wake up 2 hours early before you work your 9 to 5 every day, for a year if you have to work on your goals, and keep waking up every day with that same rhythm and that same routine. You got to keep it going. That's pretty much what I got to say. Just don't give up.
Phenomenal piece of advice and phenomenal last words. And I appreciate you, and I appreciate everything that you represent, and the the business and the network that you keep bringing my way. And I hope to do the same for you in the future. And I hope that we work together a lot more in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. Have a good night.
You too.